Hi, I'm Dave Brailsford. I'm the Performance Director of British Cycling, and I'm also the Team Principal of Team Sky. It's been a fantastic year for us. We've had a brilliant performance with Bradley Wiggins in the Tour de France, becoming the first ever British rider to win the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. And of course, London 2012, well, what an amazing experience that was for all sports and all the country. And of course, cycling had a fantastic games once again. And I'd like to chat to you a little bit more about how we did that. I think one of my challenges really is I don't coach the riders directly. I coach a team of people, including the coaches, to then coach the riders. If you want other people to perform, it's important that you understand that you need to be a rock, a solid rock of consistency, react in the same way, have a good attitude all the time. And I think attitude is very, very important. At a very simple, basic level, when I walk into this building every day, my motivation might be different. It might fluctuate up and down. But really my attitude has to be the same. We come in here to win, we come in here to train to win. So it's up to me to decide on my attitude. I'm in charge of that. I decide what it is. I'll choose my attitude when I walk into this building. And I think everybody is in the same boat. And I think that's the first and foremost, most important part of any successful program, is to really understand yourself and think about yourself and reflect about yourself and how you operate. What we did at British Cycling, we thought very carefully about how do you achieve excellence in human beings. And basically we came up with an idea, and we called it the core principle. And first and foremost, the C of the core principle stood for commitment. And we screen people for commitment. Have they got an intrinsic drive towards achieving a goal? Are they committed to that? And commitment's different to motivation in our book. Motivation ebbs and flows, but commitment's the underlying drive to where we want to get to. We have immensely talented coaches and riders who come to this programme, but if the commitment towards the goal isn't present, we won't work with them. It has to be a given. And I think when you're working with other people, one of the first things I would always look for is that commitment element. Having established that there is commitment, we would then move on and consider the O of the core principle, which is ownership. And one of the strong beliefs that we had is that not many people respond to the old sort of management way of dictate and control. People don't like to be told what to do. They don't like to be given non-negotiated tasks to be to undertake. They like to be asked about their opinion. They don't like to be shouted at. They don't like to be told off. They don't like people who talk about my performance, my riders, you let me down. So I think this whole idea of ownership is something that we try to work on very hard. And the way it basically worked here in British Cycling, to take the initiative and look at the riders and let them have a say in what they were doing. Let the riders and the coaches have a say in how they wanted to have their development plans in place and their coaching programs work, and give them ownership. So the way we now work is that we like everybody to have an opinion, and it's not. It's a professional obligation. It's not. We don't expect people to say, "Well, I'll offer opinion if I want to," or "I won't have an individual opinion if I don't want to." You're expected to have an opinion and offer an individual opinion, and then wherever possible, we will work with collective opinion. But I think whenever you want to really get the best out of somebody, create an environment where people are free to speak. They don't feel frightened or under scrutiny to speak their minds. If they won't speak to you, they'll speak to somebody behind your back, and all of a sudden the dynamic within the team will disappear. So really think about this idea of how do we develop ownership over something. We talked about taking the crown off the head of the coach and putting it on the head of the rider, and giving them some freedom and real ownership over their performance plans and their training plans. And it was amazing what happened. First and foremost, the coaches threw their hands in the air and said, "This will never work, you know, they won't turn up for training, they need to be told what to do." But of course they won't, because they're highly motivated. Chris Hoy, for sure, leave him alone, he will turn up for training, whether as a coach here or not, because he wants to be Olympic champion. But what we found was that motivation levels went through the roof. The coaches actually realised that they were there in a support role to manage and support the riders. and everything really started to flourish in the right direction. There was a bit of settling down time, I'll grant you, but in the main, we actually found that this idea of ownership worked terrifically well. The next step is, if you're going to give ownership to somebody, we have to have in all walks of life responsibility and accountability. You can't get away from it. We all have to live with it. It's part of life, and it's important, I think, that accountability is understood and made absolutely clear to every individual, so they understand what they're accountable for and equally what they're not accountable for, what's expected from them in performance terms and what's not expected from them in performance terms, what's expected in attitudinal terms and what's not expected in attitudinal terms. So I think if you take those four elements, commitment combined with ownership, on top of that you understand and make very clear the responsibility and accountability role, that then leads to excellence. And in fact, it's personal excellence that we're talking about. It's not necessarily on the world stage, it's the best that you can be. It's the best that somebody else can possibly be, the best that they can work towards, and excellence for themselves. And I think that's the really important part.